She notices him before she understands why. A man standing alone at the edge of the room, still, not waiting, not searching, just present, as if the noise bends around him. Elena slows without deciding to. The world keeps moving, heels clicking, glasses clinking, voices rising and falling, but her attention stays locked on the way his hand rests loosely at his side, unguarded yet controlled. He is not looking at her. That is what makes her stop. It is the kind of calm that does not ask permission. Someone brushes past her shoulder, and she almost drops the folder pressed to her chest. Late again. She exhales, checks her phone. 3 minutes passed. The elevator will close soon. She could still make it if she runs. She should run. Instead, she looks back. The man has turned slightly now, not toward her, but toward the window, watching the city like it owes him nothing. Elena tells herself she is tired, that hunger sharpens imagination, that missing lunch and skipping coffee does strange things to judgment. Her stomach tightens, a dull ache she has learned to ignore. She steps forward, then hesitates. If she doesn't speak now, she never will. Her voice comes out softer than planned, asking if he dropped this, holding up a single sheet of paper that slid unnoticed from his coat. He looks at it, then at her. His eyes are clear. No rush. No apology. Just recognition. That's not mine, he says quietly. No edge. No gratitude. The words land and settle. Elena nods, embarrassed, feeling foolish. She should walk away. Instead, she notices his sleeve is damp, rain darkening the fabric, and that he hasn't bothered to shake it off. She offers a napkin from her bag. He considers it for half a beat, then takes it. Thank you, he says, as if the word has weight. That is when she feels it, the smallest shift, like a door opening a crack. Somewhere behind her, a receptionist calls her name, irritation thinly masked. Elena flinches. Always late. Always almost. She gives the man a quick smile, already backing away, apologizing to no one in particular. As she turns, his voice stops her again. You're bleeding. She looks down. A paper cut across her thumb, red and bright. She hadn't felt it. He holds out the napkin, folded cleanly, offering without stepping closer. She takes it, their fingers not touching. You should take care of that, he says. Not a suggestion. Not an order. A fact. Elena presses the napkin to her skin, nodding, suddenly aware of how small the moment is and how it lingers anyway. If this were a different story, this would be where something grand happens. It doesn't. She rushes to the elevator, heart uneven, mind already pulled back to deadlines and numbers and rent due Friday. The day grinds on. By evening, she is exhausted in the quiet way that doesn't show. She eats half a sandwich at her desk, saves the rest for later, because later always comes hungry. When her phone buzzes with an unknown number, she almost ignores it. Instead, she answers, listening as a calm voice asks if she is willing to consider an unusual offer. Not a date. Not a job. A conversation. She laughs once, softly, because she cannot afford strange jokes. The voice does not laugh back. It gives her an address, a time, and says only, I believe you understand discretion. She hangs up and sits very still. Before we go any further, let me ask you something quietly, the way life does when no one is watching. If someone asked you to step into something uncertain, not because you wanted it, but because it might help you breathe a little easier tomorrow, would you stop and listen, or would you keep walking? If this story feels like it might be about you, stay with me. And now, let's return to the main character. Elena tells herself that the address is a mistake before she even reaches it. The building is too quiet for Midtown, tucked between steel and glass like it does not want to be noticed. She checks the number twice, then again, because people like her do not get invited to places that do not advertise themselves. The lobby smells faintly of lemon polish and rain. There is no line, no security desk, just an elevator already waiting, doors open, lights steady. She hesitates, then steps inside, thumb still tender beneath a fresh bandage. The ride is smooth and soundless. Her reflection in the brushed metal looks thinner than she remembers, hair pulled back too tight, blazer borrowed from a friend who makes more money. She thinks of rent, due in 4 days, the late notice folded into her bag like a quiet threat. When the doors open, the space beyond is spare, intentional, nothing ornamental. A single table, 2 chairs, floor-to-ceiling windows showing the city from above without drama. The man from earlier is already there, jacket gone, sleeves rolled, standing with his back to her. He does not turn when she enters. He waits until the doors close behind her, until the room settles. "You came," he says, not surprised. Elena clears her throat. "You said conversation." He nods once. "And discretion." He gestures to the chair across from him. She sits. He remains standing for a moment longer, as if finishing something invisible, then joins her. There is no small talk. He asks if she is comfortable. He asks if she ate. She answers honestly. Not really. He slides a plate toward her, half a sandwich cut cleanly, the same kind she eats at her desk. No ceremony. No insistence. She takes a bite before she realizes she has decided to trust him with that. He watches without staring, gaze steady and thoughtful, like he is cataloging facts, not judging choices. He introduces himself as Julian. No last name. No title. Just Julian. He explains that he needs a wife, legally and publicly, for a limited period of time. He does not say why. He says he has already been advised not to explain. He says the offer includes housing, medical coverage, and a monthly allowance that makes Elena's chest tighten before she can stop it. He says there would be rules, clear ones, designed to protect her. He does not mention love. He does not mention attraction. He does not reach for her hand. Elena laughs once, sharp and disbelieving, then stops when she sees that he is not offended. "Why me?" she asks. He considers the question as if it matters. "Because you returned something that was not yours," he says. "And because you did not ask me for anything when you did." She swallows. "That seems insufficient." He adds, "And because you know how to keep moving even when you are tired." The words land closer than she expects. She thinks of her mother's voice telling her to be careful, of the way careful has never paid the electric bill. She asks what happens if she says no. Julian answers without pause. Nothing. He does not threaten. He does not persuade. He tells her she can leave now, and this will end cleanly. The elevator will take her down. A car will take her home. No pressure. The lack of it presses anyway. He slides a thin folder across the table. Not a contract yet. Just an outline. Time frame. Boundaries. Privacy. Exit terms. She reads slowly, the way she reads court transcripts, searching for traps. She finds none, which makes her uneasy. "There is one condition," he says quietly. "If at any point you feel unsafe, you walk away. No consequences." Elena looks up. "Why would I be unsafe?" she asks. Julian does not answer right away. When he does, his voice is lower. "Because some arrangements invite attention." She nods, absorbing the implication without drama. The city outside keeps moving, lights blinking like signals she cannot decode. She thinks of the napkin folded cleanly, of the way he offered it without stepping closer. She thinks of the quiet wait in his thank you. She closes the folder. "If I agree," she says, choosing each word, "this is not a performance." Julian meets her gaze. "No," he says. "It is a responsibility." She stands, heart beating too fast to be fear alone. He stands with her, leaving space between them. "I need time," she says. "Take it," he replies. As she walks back toward the elevator, he speaks once more, not following. "If you choose this, Elena, you will not be alone." The doors close. On the ride down, she presses her bandaged thumb to the cool metal and exhales, knowing that the hardest choices never arrive with noise, only with the quiet understanding that walking away will change nothing, and staying might change everything. Elena does not sleep much that night. She lies on her side in the narrow bed of her apartment, listening to the building breathe, pipes ticking, a siren far away, the familiar sounds that usually steady her. They do not tonight. She replays the elevator doors closing, the way Julian said her name as if it belonged somewhere safer than here. In the morning, she showers longer than usual, letting the water run until it cools, counting seconds the way she does when money is tight and choices feel expensive. At work, the office hums with its normal urgency. Phones ring. Printers cough. Someone laughs too loudly at a joke Elena does not hear. She opens her inbox and finds a meeting request already scheduled for the end of the day, marked private, no subject line. She almost deletes it. Instead, she saves her work, finishes tasks that no one will thank her for, and leaves at exactly 6, a small rebellion she rarely allows. The car waiting downstairs is the same as before, clean and anonymous. The driver does not speak. The building is quieter this time, as if it remembers her. Julian is seated when she enters, jacket back on, tie loosened, sleeves still rolled. He stands when she does, not rushing. Did you decide? He asks, not pushing. She sits. She tells him she read the outline again. She tells him the numbers make sense. She tells him she understands boundaries better than most people. She does not tell him she is afraid of being seen and afraid of disappearing. He listens, eyes steady, hands folded loosely, as if nothing here is a game. He explains the public version first, because that is where power lives. A civil ceremony within weeks. Limited appearances. No interviews. A private agreement that protects her independence. He explains the legal side in plain language. No jargon, making sure she follows every turn. When she asks about the press, he says his team will handle it. When she asks about her job, he says she can keep it or leave it. Her choice. The phrase lands heavier than the money ever could. He slides a second folder toward her. This one is thicker. She opens it and sees clauses written to shield, not trap. Exit terms that favor her. Silence clauses that protect her privacy more than his. Why are you doing this? She asks again, quieter. Julian looks past her for a moment, toward the city, then back. Because I need time, he says. And because I do not use people. She studies him, the way she studies witnesses on the stand, for cracks, for tells. She finds none. That should scare her. It does not. He tells her there will be attention she did not ask for. He tells her there will be moments she wants to disappear. He tells her he will stand between her and anything he invited into her life. He does not promise comfort. He promises clarity. Elena feels the gap between them widen and sharpen, the difference in what they can command with a sentence. Power sits easily on him. It does not lean forward. It does not apologize. She recognizes it from a distance, the way she recognizes storms by the smell of air. She asks about the ring. Julian pauses, then removes a simple band from his pocket, placing it on the table between them. No diamonds. No shine. Not yet, he says. Only when you are sure. She touches the table near it, not the ring itself. She thinks of her landlord's voice, polite and tired. She thinks of the half sandwich, cut cleanly. She thinks of the napkin, folded once. If I agree, she says, I will not be quiet when something is wrong. Julian nods. I would not ask you to be. He adds one more thing, softer. And if I say trust me, it will not be to keep you small. The words echo, fitting into a place she did not know was empty. She closes the folder. She does not smile. She does not reach for the ring. I will do this, she says. The room does not change. Julian does not celebrate. He inclines his head, accepting a responsibility rather than a victory. Then we begin carefully, he says. As she stands to leave, he steps aside to let her pass, maintaining the space he has always kept. In the elevator, Elena presses her bandaged thumb to the cool wall again and exhales, aware that the distance between who she was this morning and who she will be tomorrow is not measured in floors, but in the quiet understanding that she has just stepped into a world where every small action will be watched, and where the most dangerous thing may be how much she already trusts the man who asked for none of it. The ceremony happens faster than Elena expects, as if time has been compressed into something manageable, something that cannot linger long enough to question itself. A courthouse downtown, quiet marble floors, a clerk with kind eyes who does not ask how they met. Julian arrives first, already composed, dark suit pressed, expression unreadable in the way that makes people straighten without knowing why. Elena stands beside him, borrowed heels steadying her posture. A simple dress that fits because it was chosen to fit, nothing more. There is no aisle, no music, no gathering of people to witness. What will soon belong to headlines anyway. The words are spoken clearly, legally, without poetry. When the clerk asks if she consents, Elena hears her own voice answer, yes, before fear can reach her throat. Julian answers the same way, low and even, as if accepting a fact rather than making a promise. When the ring finally appears, it is the simple band from the table, slid onto her finger with a careful precision that avoids intimacy. The metal is cool. The moment is not. Cameras wait outside, patient, hungry. Julian pauses before opening the door, turning to her, lowering his voice. From here on, stay close to me, he says. Not possessive, protective. Elena nods. The door opens and sound floods in. Shutters snap. Names are called. The city recognizes a story it wants. Julian moves first, placing himself between her and the crowd without touching her, guiding by presence alone. Elena feels the power gap sharpen, not cruelly, but undeniably. People lean in. He does not. His hand rests lightly at the small of her back only when the steps narrow, only when necessary, and she realizes that even this has been calculated for safety, not display. In the car, the noise falls away. Julian exhales once, slow. "You did well," he says, not praising, acknowledging. She watches the ring catch light as the car moves, the symbol already heavier than it looks. The apartment he takes her to is high above the street, glass and quiet and space she has never occupied before. It is not lavish in the way magazines teach, but restrained, intentional. There are rules posted discreetly on a side table, printed cleanly, as if to reassure more than restrict. He shows her where she can put her things, where privacy begins and ends. When she thanks him, he shakes his head slightly. "This is part of it," he says. Evening comes. They sit across from each other at a long table, eating without ceremony. He notices when she eats the edges first, saves the center, a habit formed by scarcity. He does not comment. Later, a message lights his phone and his expression shifts, subtle but real. Elena notices because she is watching for changes now. He moves to the window, speaks quietly, listens more than he talks. When he ends the call, he turns back to her with something measured in his eyes. "We will keep tonight simple," he says. "There will be questions soon." She nods, heart steadying itself against the future. The bedroom is prepared but untouched, white sheets smooth, a distance built into the space by design. Julian stands near the door, not entering fully, as if respecting a line he refuses to cross without invitation. Elena sits on the edge of the bed, fingers curling into the fabric of her dress, the weight of the day settling into her bones. This is when it becomes real, not on paper, not before cameras, but here, where the story stops pretending. Julian turns off the light by the door, leaving only the glow from the city, soft and distant. He does not move closer. He does not explain. "Trust me," he says quietly, the words different now, heavier, edged with urgency he has not shown before. Elena looks up at him, searching his face for something that will tell her what kind of night this is supposed to be. She finds resolve, not desire, protection, not claim. Her world shifts, not with fear, but with the sudden understanding that this marriage has begun not with romance, but with a warning wrapped in care, and that whatever waits beyond this night has already started moving toward them. Morning arrives without ceremony. Elena wakes to light filtered through glass and a silence that feels expensive. For a moment she forgets where she is. Then the ring on her finger grounds her, cool metal catching the day. The other side of the bed is untouched. Julian kept his word. She dresses quietly, choosing comfort over impression, and finds him already awake in the kitchen, sleeves rolled, reading on a tablet while coffee steams between them. He looks up when she enters, nods once, then returns to his screen, as if acknowledging a teammate rather than a bride. The day moves forward on small rails. A schedule appears on the counter, written in a careful hand, with blocks of time and clear exits marked. He asks what she needs before asking what she prefers. She asks where the nearest grocery store is. He gives her 2 options and does not insist on delivery. On the way out, a neighbor pauses, eyes flicking to the ring, then away. Elena feels the weight of being noticed without being known. In the car, Julian answers messages, voice low, precise, choosing words that close doors without slamming them. At a red light, a cyclist wobbles and nearly falls. Julian opens the window and warns him calmly, waiting until the man steadies before the light changes. Elena watches the exchange, the way care appears without announcement. At home, she organizes her things, placing familiar objects where she can find them later. The rules on the side table remain where they are. She does not move them. In the afternoon, the first test arrives quietly. A package is delivered that she did not order, wrapped too carefully to be accidental. Julian inspects it before she touches it, then sets it aside unopened. "We will wait," he says. She asks how long. "Until we know who wants us to open it," he replies. The answer is not dramatic. It is unsettling. Over dinner, a reporter's name appears on his phone. Julian does not answer. He explains what will happen next in simple terms. Public curiosity will rise. Private pressure will follow. He tells her which questions she never has to answer. He tells her she owes no one an explanation for choosing stability. She tells him she will continue working for now. He accepts the decision without comment, then rearranges the schedule to accommodate it. Later, they attend a small gathering, chosen deliberately, controlled but not staged. Elena stands beside him, listening more than speaking, noticing how Julian introduces her with respect rather than ownership. When a man presses too close, Julian shifts half a step, placing himself between them without making a scene. Elena's shoulder brushes his arm. It is the first contact that feels unplanned. She notices how he stills, not pulling away, not leaning in, allowing the moment to exist and pass. On the drive back, rain begins to fall, light at first, then steady. Julian hands her his coat when the car stops short at a crosswalk, not asking, just offering. She takes it and smells soap and something clean. In the apartment, she returns the coat folded neatly, as she found the napkin before. He notices. He always notices. Night comes with fewer words. They sit in the living room, the city breathing beyond the glass. Elena rubs her thumb absent-mindedly where the cut has healed. Julian looks up. It will scar, he says. She shrugs. I have worse. He considers that. So do I. Replies, not explaining. She realizes then that this is the rhythm, not passion or distance, but attention paid at the right moment. Before sleep, a call comes through. Julian answers, listens, then ends it without argument. His jaw tightens, then relaxes. They are testing boundaries, he says. Ours. Elena nods. What do we do, she asks. He meets her gaze. We keep them, he says. In the bedroom, he stops at the threshold again. If tonight feels heavy, he says, I will be here. She considers the space between them, the care threaded through every choice, the danger kept at bay by restraint rather than force. Stay, she says. He sits in the chair by the window, far enough to honor the line, close enough to keep watch. As the city hums and rain traces the glass, Elena drifts toward sleep with the unfamiliar comfort of being protected without being possessed, knowing that something has begun not with vows or desire, but with a series of small decisions that bind more tightly than promises, and that the next test will not announce itself, only arrive. The shift happens quietly, the way real turning points always do. Elena notices it first in the pauses. Julian comes home later than planned, not exhausted, not distracted, but carrying a stillness that was not there before. He sets his phone face down, something he rarely does, and washes his hands longer than necessary, as if rinsing off more than the city. At dinner, he eats less, listens more, eyes tracking details Elena did not know anyone else saw. The way the door clicks half a second late, the hum behind the wall that should not be there. She asks if something happened. He says not yet. The answer lands heavier than bad news. The next morning, Elena wakes with a headache that has been building for days, pressure behind her eyes she keeps ignoring. Julian notices the way she squints at the light and brings her water without comment. 2 pills placed beside the glass. She takes them and feels the smallest wave of relief, followed by the unsettling realization that he knows her rhythms now. At work, a colleague congratulates her with a smile that does not reach her eyes. A stranger asks for a photo. Elena declines politely and keeps walking, heart steady but alert. When she returns home, she finds Julian in the living room with documents spread out, not the neat outline she recognizes, but older papers, yellowed at the edges, corners softened by handling. He closes the folder when he sees her, not hiding it, simply acknowledging a boundary. She asks if she should leave. He shakes his head. You should hear this, he says, choosing the words carefully. He tells her about a decision he made years ago, a signature placed to stop something worse, a choice that saved people but bent rules that were never meant to bend. He does not justify it. He does not dramatize it. He states facts like weights set down one by one. Elena listens, body still, noticing how his voice tightens not on the act itself, but on the consequences he accepted afterward. He tells her someone has started pulling at that thread, slow and patient, hoping it will unravel the whole fabric. He tells her the marriage slowed them down. It gave him leverage and gave her risk. The honesty lands between them like glass, sharp and clear. You can still walk away, he says. now more than ever. Elena thinks of the neighbor's glance, of the reporter's name, of the package still unopened. She thinks of the way Julian placed himself between her and a stranger without touching her, of the coat offered without asking. If I leave, she says, they win something. Julian nods. Yes. She breathes out. Then I stay. The decision feels less like bravery and more like alignment. That night, the headache returns stronger, pulsing behind her temples. Julian notices her grip the counter and reaches for her without thinking, hands steadying her elbow. She sways, then regains balance. Sit, he says, voice firm now, protective instinct breaking through restraint. He brings ice, dims the lights, kneels to meet her eye level without crowding. When she winces, he flinches too, a mirrored response that surprises them both. You do not have to be strong here, he says quietly. She closes her eyes and lets the pain crest and fall, aware of his presence like a barrier against the dark. Later, when she opens them, she finds him still there, watching as if the room requires guarding. She reaches out without looking and rests her hand on his wrist. He stills completely. The contact is brief, grounding, and when she lets go, the space between them feels altered, charged not with desire, but with trust sharpened by vulnerability. Days pass with careful normalcy. Julian adjusts routines, shifts meetings, increases distance where necessary. Elena learns which elevators to avoid, which routes feel watched. They do not speak of fear. They speak of logistics. One evening, as rain streaks the glass again, Elena notices a scar at Julian's wrist, thin and pale. She asks how he got it. He considers, then answers simply, by surviving. She nods, understanding more than the word explains. Before sleep, a message arrives that changes his posture instantly. He reads it once, then deletes it. They are closer, he says. To what, she asks. To forcing a choice, he replies. Elena looks at the ring, then at him. Then we make one first, she says. Julian studies her, something like relief crossing his face. Tomorrow, he says. She nods, feeling the weight of the coming days settle into her bones, aware that the marriage has crossed an invisible line, no longer just a shield, but a partnership forged under pressure, and that whatever comes next will test not whether they can pretend, but whether they can stand openly beside each other when the quiet breaks. Pressure does not arrive loudly. It seeps in through small cracks, through polite emails and calendar requests that pretend to be routine. Elena feels it first at work when a senior partner asks to see her, closes the door, and congratulates her again, this time with a warning disguised as advice. Visibility changes expectations, he says. Associations invite scrutiny. Elena thanks him and leaves, pulse steady but alert. By the time she reaches the street, her phone vibrates with a message from Julian asking where she is, not checking, coordinating. When she gets home, the apartment feels tighter, as if the walls are listening. Julian is already there, jacket draped over a chair, sleeves rolled, jaw set. He does not waste time. They made an offer, he says. Elena sits without being told. He explains it carefully, the way one explains a storm path, not dramatizing, not softening. If he agrees to step back publicly, to issue a statement that reframes old decisions as personal errors rather than systemic failures, the pressure eases. The marriage becomes unnecessary, quietly dissolved, protected. Elena hears the word dissolved and understands what it costs. They want me gone, she says. Julian nods. They want you safe, he corrects. At the price of my silence. The room hums with the city below. Elena thinks of the elevator rides, of the neighbor's glance, of the coat folded neatly. What do you want, she asks. Julian looks at her, as if surprised by the question. I want you untouched by this, he says. I want the fallout to stop with me. The answer is clean and devastating. Elena stands and walks to the window, pressing her palm to the glass. The city keeps moving. Somewhere below, people make choices without knowing they matter. If you accept, she says slowly, they learn how to threaten you. Julian joins her, close enough to share the reflection, but not to crowd. They already know, he says. That night, the first public strike lands. A headline framed as curiosity, not accusation. A question about timing. A suggestion about convenience. Julian's phone lights up with calls he does not answer. Elena's social feed fills with strangers dissecting her face, her clothes, her worth. She deletes nothing, scrolls once, then sets the phone down. Her hands shake only briefly. "We can end this," Julian says, voice even, as if offering a door that has always been there. Elena looks at him, really looks, at the man who has never once asked her to perform affection, who has only asked her to stand where she chooses. "Not like this," she says. The next day, the pressure sharpens. A board member requests a private meeting, then cancels it. A delivery arrives with no return address, empty this time, the message clear. Julian moves through the apartment with a precision that feels like preparation. Elena notices a packed bag by the door, discreet, ready. "That is for you," he says when he sees her looking. "In case." The word hangs between them. "You prepared an escape," she says. Julian nods once. "I prepare outcomes." Elena crosses the room and places her hand on the bag, not moving it, just acknowledging it. "If I leave," she says, "this story becomes exactly what they want." Julian does not argue. He listens, eyes intent, respecting the weight of her choice. Later, as evening settles, they attend a charity dinner they cannot cancel without consequence. The room is bright, polished, full of measured smiles. Elena feels eyes on her before she sees them. Julian offers his arm, waiting. She takes it. Together they move through the space, a single unit, quiet and unyielding. When a man approaches with a too friendly grin and a carefully worded question, Elena answers calmly, truthfully, without defensiveness. Julian does not interrupt. The man retreats, unsettled. On the drive home, Julian exhales. "You did not have to do that," he says. "I wanted to," she replies. Back in the apartment, the silence returns, heavier now. Julian stops near the door, the line between them drawn again. "If this becomes too much," he says, "I will end it." Elena meets his gaze. "If you do," she says, "do it with me standing beside you." The words land like a promise neither of them has named. Julian nods, once slow. "Then we face tomorrow together," he says. As they prepare for sleep, Elena senses that the conflict has moved beyond strategy into something more dangerous, a test of whose values will bend first, and she understands that the next move will not be made by lawyers or headlines, but by a choice that cannot be undone, a choice that will reveal whether this marriage was ever just a shield, or something forged to withstand the quiet violence of being pushed aside. The choice arrives without ceremony, dressed as routine. Julian wakes before dawn and leaves a note on the counter, 3 lines written clearly, time, location, and a reminder to eat. Elena reads it twice, then folds it and places it beneath the simple band on her finger, anchoring intention to metal. Outside, the city hums with the false comfort of normal mornings. She dresses carefully, not for display, but for steadiness, choosing shoes she can walk in if needed, hair secured, breath even. When she arrives at the building Julian named, it is not the kind that draws attention. Clean lines, controlled entry, a lobby designed to calm. Security recognizes Julian immediately. Elena is recognized too. That is new. She waits while doors open and close with measured patience. The meeting room is bright, too bright, glass walls showing silhouettes that pretend not to watch. Julian stands at the table, jacket on, hands resting flat, posture balanced. He looks at her once, a silent question. She nods. The board members enter in pairs, polite, practiced. Words are exchanged that mean nothing and everything. Julian begins without flourish. He states what he will not do. He will not issue a statement that rewrites the past. He will not trade silence for safety. He accepts consequences that belong to him. The room tightens. A man across the table leans forward and offers the compromise again, slower this time, as if repetition might soften resolve. Elena feels the moment stretch, the quiet climax no one prepared for. She steps forward before Julian can answer, not interrupting, simply entering the space that has been reserved for him alone. She speaks calmly, not loudly, her voice steady enough to carry without force. She says the marriage stands. She says it is not a distraction, not a shield, but a declaration of alignment. She says attempts to isolate Julian by removing her will fail because she chose to be here. The room stills. Someone clears their throat. Julian does not stop her. He watches, eyes focused, allowing the line to be crossed because it must be. She finishes without pleading, without accusation. She sits. The offer is withdrawn, replaced by a warning. Julian listens, nods once, and stands. Then we are done, he says. The meeting ends without resolution, which is its own kind of decision. In the hallway, Elena exhales for the first time in minutes. Julian turns to her, expression unreadable, then softer. You did not have to do that, he says again. I know, she replies. The elevator ride down is quiet. At street level, rain begins suddenly, hard and cold. Julian removes his jacket to offer it. Elena stops him gently, takes his hand instead, guiding them beneath an awning. The contact is brief but decisive. Later, at home, the phone rings. Julian answers, listens, then sets it down. They will escalate, he says. Elena nods. So will we, she replies. He looks at her, a flicker of something like pride passing before restraint returns. Night settles in layers. The apartment feels smaller, safer, charged. Elena notices the packed bag by the door is gone. Julian notices she noticed. I put it away, he says. For now. She sits on the couch, rubbing the place where her ring meets skin, grounding herself. Julian stands by the window, watching reflections rather than the city. Trust me, he says again, not as warning this time, but as a request weighted with consent. Elena stands and closes the distance, stopping where the line has always been. I do, she says. The words are quiet, irrevocable. He does not touch her. He inclines his head, accepting the trust like a vow he must now earn. Outside, the rain slows. Inside, the quiet holds. Elena understands that the climax was never meant to be loud, never meant to end the story, only to turn it. What comes next will not be managed by contracts or controlled rooms, but by the steady choice to remain visible together, to let consequences land where they may. As they prepare for sleep, side by side but not entwined, Elena senses the story leaning forward, breath held, waiting for the aftermath, for the cost to be counted and the truth to demand more than courage, knowing that the calm they have chosen is not an absence of danger, but the clearest form of defiance, and that tomorrow will test whether trust whispered can stand when the world raises its voice. The fallout does not explode. It settles. The morning after the meeting arrives with a different kind of quiet, not tension, not relief, but a waiting that feels earned. Elena wakes first this time, light spilling across the room in a way that feels ordinary again. Julian is still asleep in the chair by the window, jacket folded over the back, posture eased just enough to suggest rest found without surrender. She watches him for a moment, noticing how the sharp lines soften when he is not holding the world at bay. She moves quietly, makes coffee, lets the sound of it fill the space with something domestic and unremarkable. When he wakes, he smiles faintly, surprised, as if this small normal thing was never part of the plan. News arrives later, not through headlines, but through absence. Call slow. Messages lose urgency. A statement is released by the board, careful, vague, designed to protect itself without naming a villain. Julian reads it once, then sets his phone down. It is not over, he says. Elena nods. But it changed, she replies. They step outside together for the first time without a schedule. The city looks the same, but she feels different walking beside him, not hidden, not shielded, simply present. At a crosswalk, a woman recognizes them and hesitates, then smiles, small and genuine. Elena smiles back. It feels like permission to exist without explanation. In the weeks that follow, the marriage remains, not as a performance, but as a structure they inhabit carefully. Julian returns to work, quieter but more deliberate. Elena keeps her job longer than expected, then leaves on her own terms, choosing space over endurance. They learn each other through habits rather than declarations. He learns she needs silence after long days. She learns he reads late not to escape, but to prepare. One evening, Julian brings out the thin band again, the one that started it all. He places it on the table between them, as he did before. We never finished this, he says. Elena looks at it, then at him. We did, she says. Just not the way people expected. He considers that, then nods. Months later, the pressure fades into something manageable. The danger does not vanish, but it no longer defines them. At a small gathering, controlled but honest, Julian is introduced not as a man under scrutiny, but as a leader who stood still when asked to bend. Elena stands beside him, not as proof, not as shield, but as choice made visible. On their anniversary, unmarked by anyone else, Julian takes Elena back to the courthouse steps at dusk. There are no cameras, no witnesses. He does not kneel. He does not rehearse. He takes her hand and says, "I asked you to trust me when I could not offer certainty. If you want something different now, something chosen without pressure, I will follow." Elena looks at the city, then back at him. "I already chose," she says. She takes the ring from her finger, then places it back herself, slow and deliberate. The gesture is small, unmistakable. The story does not end with applause. It ends with continuity, with mornings that feel earned, with nights that do not require vigilance. Elena understands now that love did not arrive as fire or rescue, but as steadiness, as someone who stepped back when he could have claimed, who stayed when leaving would have been easier. If there is a lesson here, it is not about wealth or power or even romance. It is about what happens when kindness is treated as strength, when trust is offered without demand, and when two people choose to stand openly rather than hide behind convenient endings. If you have ever faced a moment where staying felt riskier than leaving, where quiet courage mattered more than grand gestures, then this story was for you. And if it moved you, even a little, take a moment to like this video, subscribe for more stories told this way, and share it with someone who might need the reminder that sometimes the most powerful words are whispered, and the bravest choices are the ones we make without an audience.